just a moment. Let me do this very quickly. I do need to take that call. However, welcome to Unapologetically Purple, where we get to talk about epilepsy and advocacy and also just education. We get to talk about epilepsy as a caregiver. So, who am I? So I am Faith Adita Span, Coach Faith to some. And so I love to get to come on and to just share with you. I have 3 different podcasts. I'm going to try to condense them. So I have Unapologetically Purple, which is this one. Also Real Talk, and then Pep Talk. And so last night I was on Pep Talk. I'd love for you to go over and listen to that if you have been going through some things and just need a word of encouragement. Take a listen, because you've got to have something to look forward to. That's what the topic was last night. We all need to. When we wake up in the morning, when we go to bed at night, we need to have something to look forward to kind of help us to get through the day. Today I'm talking about Keppra Rage. It is a very real thing. Don't believe me? Ask some of the people that you know, if you do know any, who have a loved one who may be experiencing Keppra Rage. And listen, everyone doesn't. Let's just get this straight. Some meds that work well for some people do not work well for others. And so that's the group that I'm talking to, the group who has experienced Keppra Rage even on a personal level, or perhaps they're a caregiver and their child is experiencing or has experienced Keppra Rage. And so I wanted to open up. Let me see something here, y'all. So remember, this is a very real podcast. I felt to do it this way. I know I could clean it up for you and go through that whole process, but I don't feel to do that. I want to invite you into a very, very real space where you may hear a car horn going off, or maybe a neighbor going, "Hey, how you doing?" Over there to another neighbor, because life is real. And I think that, it's important for us to take these opportunities to just be real. I don't want to call it normal, because I just don't feel like, life is normal right now. But just to let people know, hey, you don't have to have everything together before you start to do what you need to do. Whether you want to start a podcast too, whether you want to start a not-for-profit or be an entrepreneur, whether you want to do some different things in your family, you don't have to wait until this thing called the perfect time. Please don't wait for that, because if you noticed, for many of us, it hasn't come yet, and we've been looking for it for years. Where's the perfect? I'm looking for perfect time. It's not here yet. So go ahead and move forward and do the wonderful things that God is calling you to do. So let's talk about Keppra. I'm looking at the side effects for Keppra, and this is a medicine that many people who are diagnosed with epilepsy actually take this medicine. And once again, it doesn't work for everyone. I get to talk about my own experience. And then recently, I just want to share with you, my daughter, after 7 years, we went to have her EEG done. And we were just hoping and praying. I am a woman of faith. I will pray. Doesn't mean that God answers every prayer. He might not answer it the way that I want him to, but it does get answered nonetheless. And so for me, it was years of praying over her, just decreeing that, the opposite, like, honey, you will be healed. You will be healed. These epilepsy stop, which is the name of her book. She's 12. She's got a book. Some of you may have seen her on Oprah had up a post one time, and she had a Make-A-Wish done. And so, you probably saw her and was like, who's this little girl? So that was her. And so, yes, we had that experience. Quite interesting nonetheless. But that's her. And so, she came to me one day. I'm an author. I have a book called Don't Give Up, Acknowledging the Struggle, Celebrating Resilience. And she said, Mommy, I want to write a book. And so I was like, okay, honey, you know how you do with your children. You're like, oh, that's so cute. Okay, sweetheart. And even though I know she is gifted and she's blessed and she's feisty, and she's brave and all of these things. I gave her my computer when I wasn't on it, and she just started typing away. And I let her type away. I showed her how to save it and all of that. And I let her do that for, a couple of more than paragraphs. And one day I said, let me look at this. Let me take a peek what she's writing. And let me tell you, I was not just pleasantly surprised. I was so proud. I'm so proud of her. Just because of even the place. So I'm an encourager, and my daughter is too. And so she is encouraging children, and I'm sure parents and people with epilepsy will also be encouraged with this book. It will be coming out very soon, so stay tuned for that. You probably, what's the best way to look for it? My website. I'm going to put up something for her as well. faithworksempowered.com. faithworksempowered.com. And so I'm going to put that book up, and it's called Epilepsy Stop. And so in this book, she's sharing how she felt when she was first diagnosed, and, how others may feel. And she's kind of telling you like, yeah, no, everyone doesn't have it, or you may be watching someone on television, but I'm going to let her talk about it. We'll come on. We've done an episode before on Unapologetically Purple, so I'm going to pull her in again, and we're going to talk about her book and, probably hopefully do something on YouTube. Anyway, so I put up on a group that I'm in, there's a book club that I'm in, and I just shared this beautiful testimony and blessing from God about us, her just getting this normal EEG after 7 years. Y'all know 7 is the number of completion for many people. And so, she just, like I said, it's real. You're going to hear stuff. So needless to say, I put it up, I'm sorry. And then some parents started to come into my inbox on Facebook, and they started to kind of say, hey, I'm dealing with this. Or there were many people who said, I want the same testimony for my child as well, and how they wanted to be encouraged in that area as well. And so, I said, that's perfect, right? I was just like, absolutely. And then I felt to encourage them, just because I know those lonely moments, right? Those moments that you don't want to talk to people about, especially when your loved one is dealing with Keppra Rage. You do not want to share. There's one mom who's in epilepsy of parents. Let me see. What is it called? Because I would love for some of you to go on that group. I think it's Parents of Children with Epilepsy. That's what it is. And she posted these pictures of how she had bite marks in her arm and some other things. And it's not just that. Another mom came into my inbox, and she was telling me about her daughter as well. And another mom about her child, that they're about to get their EEG done. And so I'm an advocate, right? So when I found out that my daughter had epilepsy, on my other episodes, I talk about how all of a sudden I became an instant researcher. And I just started to research, and I started to share it with her school, because for us it came out of nowhere. It came out of somewhere, but kind of came out of nowhere. And I know some people, have, brain injuries and different things like that. But for us, the only thing that the doctor could really say was that with some children, it's the way that their brain develops. And so the first medicine, because we were on the ICU for about 5 days, we were heading to school, and she had her first seizure, and then she had another one as she was, right after she was about to have an MRI done. And so for us, this was, forget about it. I was the one who had the child, who I would take her to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician and also her assistant would be like, oh my goodness, Diamond's here, so excited, Diamond's here, and I'm like, one day I said to her, why do you get so excited? She said, look at her, she's healthy, she's plump. She said, look around, the children, so many of them are not doing well, and, all of that, and it's nothing for parents, right? That is not anyone who has a habit of shaming parents. Shame on you, because parenting is a job where you can buy books, but it doesn't come with a specific book for your child and your family. And so we get to do as much and the best as we can. And sometimes life happens and we don't have all of the answers. And you may even feel, have you ever felt like a deer caught in headlights? Like life was happening, you were just standing there like blinking, like what is going on? Well, I have, right? Nothing that I'm ever ashamed of. That's how I kind of handle certain things. I stop and I think, like, what in the world? And of course I pray. And so sometimes you don't have all the answers, even in the midst of what's happening right now. I just want to throw this in here as I speak about being a caregiver in Keppra Rage. Sometimes many parents go through traumatic events. Now, let's say that in the midst of all of this, you're a widow, you're a single mom, a solo mom, you're facing a divorce or a separation, you lost your job, your child is not faring well or was not faring well at school, and so you decided or you knew you needed to change something else, and so you knew that you needed to leave your job. They were sleeping from the medication. Their grades plummeted. They needed that one-on-one, and not just a one-on-one in a classroom setting, because they started to deal with sensory issues and different things like that, or challenges. I like to use the word challenges. And so you knew for your family, you had to make this change. I do not ever want you to feel guilty about the change and the decisions that you feel you need to make that are best for your child, best for the person who you are a caregiver to, best for yourself. Do not do that. And do not let people shame you. There are people in this world who will, because you decide, and listen, this whole thing about being a stay-at-home mom is easy. That's the biggest lie. I like to say it's a lie straight from the pit of hell. It is not easy, especially when you're a solo parent, because you're trying to figure out how to make money. Sometimes you need to start a job. You need to start a business. You're trying to do it. Maybe you, like me, I was in business cohorts and groups, and it wasn't many people. When you have a child with epilepsy, sometimes people don't want to watch your child. They feel like, I'm scared something is going to happen. And some come to you nicely about that. But there are others who will try to shame you. I went to sit outside one day. We were somewhere and I was just like, I think about the many times where sleep has changed, right? So for me, if you have a child who had seizures in their sleep, you no longer sleep the way that you used to. And I was always a light sleeper anyway. Of course, when I became a mom, I started to sleep. It changed a bit. But you need that break sometimes. And as I'm speaking to parents, and I'm speaking to moms, and the one thing I'm saying to them is, do you have a support system? And many of them are like, well, no, I don't. And I don't think it's because they don't want to have some. I think it's because sometimes there are people who have been mean to them who have not decided to help but to hurt. I've experienced it myself. And there are times when you just feel like you just need a moment, even if you just sit outside. Your child is okay. They're upstairs. And you just say, I just need a moment, just in this space, just a moment. Not that you don't love your children. That's a lie also. But it's just like that whole thing I always say with the airplane. If the airplane loses pressure and oxygen, they always say you've got to put that mask on yourself first. And as parents, I will say this, and I'm not going to say you're guilty of it, because I don't want you to continue to have to feel bad about the decisions and the things that you do. Feeling guilty about it makes it seem like you've done something wrong. No, I want to validate your emotions and say, yes, it's very real that there are times when you need that moment in a quiet space I don't care if you've got to put your headphones on, and I love to listen to soaking music. It's worship music. I've been doing it for years, but now knowing that sometimes for me, that's a place of just take a moment to step away from the responsibility of trying to figure it out, of being an entrepreneur, of whatever it is. Say, okay, this 10 minutes, sometimes that 15-minute nap, you feel guilty about taking a nap, but yet you're up all night. you're looking, is she breathing? Is he breathing? Are they okay? They may move in the middle of the night. For me, that whole thing about, separate rooms changed. And why did it change? Because my daughter was having seizures in her sleep. And so I became, how they have seizure dogs, or they have systems that alert systems that alert a parent if the child's oxygen level drops, or if the child is moving in their sleep, or whatever it is, and it picks up a seizure. And sometimes, that seizure dog, that alarm system, that seizure pillow, whatever it is there to help. And so for me, I stopped sleeping by myself and sleeping with her because I knew this was the type that we were experiencing. Not everybody has seizures in their sleep, but when your child does, there's a change. You're like, you want to watch them like a hawk. You want to make sure that they're okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so somebody had the nerve to say to me, although I have to forgive her, you're codependent, your daughter. Do you know what it's like to be on an ICU with your child because they're having seizures and they've never had them before? Do you know what it's like for your child to wake up and to have only enough time to call out and say, "Mommy," and that's all they can get out? And the next thing you know, you're looking at them and they're having a seizure. You're trying to get them from the bed to the floor sometimes because of the way that the seizure is causing them to move off the bed. And you're you're not as big as your child sometimes, and you're trying to get them down and you don't have the help to help you to get them down to the floor. Do you know what that's like? Person who judges, person who's trying to make someone's life very difficult. I pray that you will repent. And that's just not in my life. That's in the life of everyone who makes it difficult for a caregiver. That's bosses who don't get it. I have stories of people who have reached out to me and they're like, maybe it was MS, multiple sclerosis, or a diagnosis, and the boss was very, very cold and callous. Well, a lot of that has changed now, right? Because now we've almost been forced in a way, and it's not a bad force, but to look at things differently. For that boss, for that so-called friend, don't shame your friends who are going through things. You must repent, right? And that I say this with passion. I say it because I've experienced it. For those of you who have as well, my heart, I empathize with you. But that doesn't mean that everyone is the same and that you should give up on trying to find a real friend or trying to find someone, who's going to say, "I'm going to be sympathetic," or "I'm going to be here for you," instead of talk about your child. I've had that experience as well, where I thought people were going to help and there were negative things that were being said constantly that I feel like my brain had to shut it off because it was too much. Sometimes you will go through selective memory because it's too much. You're trying to do so much and you feel alone, but you are not alone. You've got to find spaces where people will accept you and what you're going through. And yes, on Facebook, there are many groups. Go ahead, be a part of the group. Don't try to go through this by yourself. You just don't need to. And I don't want you to. And so we've experienced that. And so, yes, I experienced Keppra Rage with my child. That's the first medicine I feel like they had her on was trileptal. And they said, "Okay, we're going to discharge her now. Let's see how she walks." And I don't know if you've ever watched George Jefferson, but my daughter has never been a bopper. And she was kind of like bopping with this type of George Jefferson swaggy type of thing. And I said, "No. This is not." It was like a limp kind of walk, and I said, "No, this is not how my child walks." Parent, nobody knows your child. Caregiver, no one knows your loved one more than you do. And so you do not need to accept when someone says, "Okay, this is great, see?" No. You get to tell them this is not great. This is not how they act. This is not what they do. And so then they switched her from trileptal. We didn't get discharged at that time. And they discovered, when they drew her bloods that they had given her too much medicine. And she was actually high on the meds too much medicine. And so they brought those levels down. They switched it to Keppra. And this is because you've got to have a say-so. You can look at the doctors. You've got to partner with them. Do not just say, well, I'm going to let them take the reins. No. You must partner with the doctor. You must know, you must feel comfortable enough, even if you say, but I don't have all of the training that they do. But no one knows your child more than you do. Stand up, parent. Stand up, mom. Stand up, dad. Stand up, caregiver, and be that caregiver that you must be. You must be that caregiver that stands up and talks and says something. And I know, listen, me, usually pretty laid back. You know, I went through a period of being very shy as a young person, a child, even as an adult, just shy, all right, that's okay. There are times when you must speak up, and being a parent and being a caregiver, there are many instances where I have had to go up against certain things, because I had to, and as I did it, as a matter of fact, so then they put her on Keppra, and the neurologist, we went home with her on Keppra, and I realized she changed, right? So I looked up, let me just look this up for you, some of the symptoms for Keppra, and it's important for you to look up these symptoms. Every person doesn't have the same symptoms, but sometimes they do. Now, here's the common side effects, right? So, decreased appetite, drowsiness, generalized weakness, headache, and I don't know what that is, irritability, that's the big one I want to talk about, low energy, unusual change in mood or behavior, confusion, hallucinations, loss of balance or coordination, extreme drowsiness, feeling very weak or tired, difficulty walking or moving, skin rash, no matter how mild, right? So this to me seems a little mild, right? It seems mild, but when you go through it, becoming hyperactive, right? Because of the electrical impulses and the way that this medicine affects some people, my experience was my very, very calm, mild sweetheart of a child. All of a sudden, went the irritability was at a level. I'm going to put it at a 9. I'm not going to go all the way with a 10. I'll put it at around 8, 9. And many of you have experienced that. And I want to talk about it because I don't want you to feel like you need to be alone, hidden, silent in the shadow somewhere, feeling like your child is the only one, your loved one is the only one, or that no one understands. I experienced it myself, and it was very difficult. It was difficult. And because I knew my child and I watched how epilepsy was changing her, one of the first things I did when my daughter was diagnosed was I started looking at videos, and this man had up a video of his son, and he had pictures of his child, and he started to say, like, epilepsy is robbing us of our child, right? And I was like, what? And so first I saw this little child, and his hair was dark, and he was just like so happy, so joyful. And he kept these pictures that he kept showing. I just sat there and I literally practically cried because the child's face changed. The child's hair, it was just like a different child. It didn't even look like the same child. And this dad was really just pouring his heart out. And I'm glad he did, because it helped me to understand. And I kept saying, wow, that's something else. I hadn't gone through it. And then, hello, she got, oh, okay, go ahead. And then, as we started to kind of go through that experience, I started to understand better what this dad and what other parents were going through. And I started feeling, and I started, it was like time to conduct workshops in her school, time to incorporate the Epilepsy Foundation. And I just went and got lots and lots of brochures and whatever they felt like sending me, whistles or what to give to these parents, and whatever. And then the local epilepsy, it wasn't the foundation, it was a local epilepsy center, and had them come out, and we did these workshops. Her epileptologist and the other neurologist who I just loved, her Dr. Paliki and Dr. May, they came and were so helpful and gave so much great information to help parents feel like what you're going through is not out of this world. Ask the questions. You are being heard. You don't have to suffer through this in silence. And so I'm not going to share, what I went through right now. We'll probably will do it, but I will share it with the intent of helping people understand that sometimes the next thing I did was when, the rage started to happen on this Keppra for my normally very, kind sweetheart of a girl. I knew that once again, it was the medicine. I knew that I needed to get her off. And so when I went to the neurologist and I said to him, we must get my child off of this medicine, he told me no. Okay? No, let it get into her system a little more. And y'all listen, like I said, this is live, so just walk with me over. I'm going to make some hot chocolate for my baby girl. And so he told me no. And, I thought about it. I like this. I prefer the real thing. And so he said no, and I couldn't believe it because he didn't know what I was going through inside of our home. And moreover, he didn't know what she was going through. And there are times when someone may have Keppra Rage or even a seizure and they don't remember what happened. That was the other thing I discovered. I would say, honey, do you know what you just did? And it wasn't like, somebody might say, well, kids are manipulative, kids lie. No. I know my daughter, and so it wasn't that. So, and I felt so sad for her and sad for myself too. Because the doctor will tell you, a doctor who cares will tell you, you've got to protect them, but you also have to protect yourself when they are under the influence of a drug that is keeping the seizures away, but causing harmful behavior. And so, since that doctor decided, that neurologist who went to school to be a neurologist for many, many years, decided they did not want to listen to me, who knew my child for many, many years, I had a decision to make. Do I stay with this doctor? Do I allow her to keep going through this to the point that she may hurt herself or might even hurt me? Do I allow her to have to keep going through this irritability, these mood swings, whatever else, along with knowing this diagnosis of epilepsy is enough as it is? And so my decision as a mom, as her advocate, as her caregiver, was to find someone else who was going to partner with us. And so I looked up, I don't even know how I found, I just said, specialists who deal with epilepsy. And that's where I found the word epileptologist. And let me tell you, we were blessed to find the epileptologist that we found. And an epileptologist is a neurologist who goes to school. I don't know how much longer. Is it like a year and a half? You can correct me if I'm wrong. But they go like an extra year and a half, 2, 3, or whatever. I can't remember. But specifically to be instructed on epilepsy. And we found a wonderful epileptologist, Dr. Julianne Paliki. And yes, I'm shouting her name out because I have to. When things go wrong, this world is very quick to shout out horrible things. But when things go right, it is our duty, it is our responsibility to yell and to shout out the people who have been a blessing in our lives. And so I am shouting her out because she listened. Her bedside manners. I'm speaking with a mom, and I speak to moms who say that, sometimes the doctors will make them feel so small. Some do. And that's when I say to them, you need to switch. You're already going through enough as it is. Why would you stay? You can leave. You can do it. You're not bound. You're not tied up to that, doctor. You can leave. Find someone who's going to respect you, who's going to help you, who's going to respect your child. And this goes along the lines even of people. Find people who are not going to tolerate you and your child. Find people who are going to love and respect you. And yes, I think about Judas right now. Jesus had Judas around and he ate with them, and everything. Yeah, sometimes you'll have people like that in your lives. But I'm talking about even, I believe, like I told someone one time, I said, I don't even think God wants me to have to go through this, right? I think there are some times when we are tolerating and we're allowing ourselves to be in the company of people who mean us no good. They mean us harm, right? And so, the Bible talks about these things too, so I can say it. Yes, we forgive. It's important to forgive. But sometimes you've got to get out of that situation because it's too much stress. So you have the stress of wondering, is your child, your loved one okay? And then you have the concern and, you're worried about that. And we have to deal with worry and give God, God, we trust you. We don't want to worry because worry doesn't help a situation. It just makes you feel worse. It made me feel worse. And so, being able to say, I've got to switch. I've got to get out of this. I've got to be okay. I have to stop using my energy in a space where it's not helpful. And so, we switched the doctor. We went to this wonderful woman who loves God too, who was such a blessing. And she started to taper my child off of that Keppra and put her on lamotrigine, Lamictal. And because she did that, it was like night and day, such a great change. Of course, she's still on meds. And so, it's not 100% of who she can be. But she's so, how can I put it? She's such a blessing and so brave and so strong. And yes, she's still a child, right? And it's not always, parents, I got to throw this in there. It's not always the medicine. It's not always the epilepsy. It's not always the seizure. Sometimes your children are going to try you because they're your children, right? It's just like a child may be bullied at school. They may be afraid of the bully, but they're going to come home and they're going to sometimes let the parent have it. And I know some parents are like, oh, how could she have? I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to the ones who are judgy. I don't like that, right? That has to stop. But I am talking to the ones who have gone through it and who have found it difficult, especially when your child has an illness. You don't want to... You just, you're trying to figure out like, okay, do I punish them? What do I do? Many of us went through being disciplined, tell the truth. And so sometimes you even have to change that discipline style. But you're also not going to want to allow your child to bop you and all of those things. You've got to find another way. And I'm going to do, a workshop. So stay tuned for that, where I would love for you to come. And we're going to ask these questions. I'm going to, 9 times out of 10, I've already spoken with Dr. Paliki about it, because some of you have questions and you just don't know who to talk to about what's really happening. And it's going to be a closed forum. And, I want you to have that opportunity because you need to be heard. And so she switched. And like I said, it was such a wonderful change, and, it helped. Now, the other thing I want to say, I'm not going to say it on this one because you know me, I have so much to share with you. I will come back and do another one about the move that changed our lives, the move that changed our lives. And so sometimes a move you'll see the hard part in it. I won't go into it now, but I saw the difficult part. But as a woman of God, I kept hearing, God say, I've got you and your daughter. I've got you. I'm going to take care of you. You are more valuable than the sparrows. I've got you. I'm going to take care of you. And he has done just that. And so I want to leave you with this, parents. Know that it's okay to go to your neurologist, epileptologist, to your the doctor, and to tell them that your child needs to come off. I didn't say ask them. At this point, when it gets to be super duper rough like that, you need to tell them, this medicine is not working for my child. I need you to switch them, take them off, and put them on something else. Like I said, lamotrigine, Lamictal worked well for me and lots of other people, or for my child and lots of other people with epilepsy. Tell them you want something that's going to have the least amount of side effects, the one that's going to not really have so many symptoms, even for their body long term. And so do some research, y'all. You got to do the research. I know you're tired sometimes, but do it anyway so that you can speak to it. Know that it's okay for you to switch, especially if you are being belittled, made to feel small in the midst of all the other stuff that you have going on. I want you to know it's okay for you to say, you know what? I don't have to take this. I'm going to find another doctor, and do it. And don't, what's the word I want to say? Do it. That's what I want to say. Don't not do it. Don't say, oh, I'm just too tired. No, I'm saying it would be better for you to switch than to continue with the same doctor and you're being humiliated and belittled. It's okay. Do your research. Find someone. Ask around. Because now people are doing telehealth, right? Telemed. So ask somebody who has that. Ask. They're out there. You've just got to find them and ask God specifically what you want. I want a kind. I want someone who's going to partner with us. I want someone who loves God. Ask him. And then look. And that's with anything in life. Ask and then look. Ask and then seek. And believe that you're going to find the answers that you're looking for. And if you haven't found them yet, do not lose heart. Do not lose hope. Keep looking. And the answer will come. All right, that's it for today. So this is Coach Faith. I have enjoyed my time with you. I love sharing. I love being an advocate. I love praying for you. And know that even if I don't know you personally, I am praying for the epilepsy community. I absolutely know that God does heal. And if by some chance your beautiful warrior angel is no longer here, I celebrate you for the moments that you watched them, you held them in your arms, you took care of them. I celebrate you, mom, dad, caregiver, for the moments that you did all that you could. Even if you feel like you didn't do enough, I am celebrating you for all that you did do. And I thank you for every caregiver out there, for being that caregiver. Even when you feel like you are not supported, I celebrate you today, and I charge you to keep going. I charge you to take those moments to have that Snickers bar and not feel guilty about it, to have a little cup of ice cream, don't feel guilty about it, a piece of cake. I know I'm talking about food because I'm hungry, but I wanted to come on and talk to you first, so I said, let me wait. But just don't feel bad about it. The times when maybe you have to put some headphones on, or when you have to get noise canceling headphones for yourself or for your child because they're dealing with sensory and the noise is just too much when they're around people, or when you have to get that weighted vest for your child because they feel like the world is so big and they're so small in it, or that weighted blanket that's going to help them to sleep better. We will talk about these things. I am here to help. Because that's what I like to do. Alrighty? So if you want to get a copy of my book, which is Don't Give Up, it's on Amazon. If you like listening to my voice, it'll put you to sleep sometimes. But I do have an audiobook that is on payhip.com/ payhip.com/Yadida Writes. I'll be switching that soon too. But payhip.com/Yadida Writes. That's my middle name. YEDIDAH. Yadida Writes. Oh, and guess what, y'all? I have I'm going to be part of a conference, one of the keynote speakers. I'll be talking about my book, Don't Give Up, next week. And so I want you to register for that. It's free. You have to register. There's a wonderful panel of women that are going to be on there talking about our lives and just what it means to be, let me think, oh gosh, is it healed? How could I forget what it was? Heal, whole, and I'm leaving one out. I know I am. But, gosh, it's on Eventbrite. It is on my page on social media. What is it? I keep feel like saying helpful, healed, and whole, but it's not helpful. I'm missing one of the words. Okay, I'll have to come back on and kind of give that to you. But it is taking place on Saturday from 10 to 1 o'clock. Lucrece Irizarry is the one. She's sponsoring it with another woman, LUCRESS IRIZARRY. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Maybe it's helpful, healed, and whole. No, it's not. It's another word. It's another good word. But anyway, I'll come back. But thank you for listening to me today. I don't have music for you. You know how they have like that great music when they come on? I don't have that yet. I could create some like I have on Pep Talk, but I kind of like just making you laugh, giving you a little something to laugh about. So, thanks for listening to Unapologetically Purple. How's that? Until next time.